Hi, and welcome to this behind-the-scenes look at my latest horror piece of music. This music was created only using the sounds of objects that I've found around my house. I've put them through some pretty heavy processing using Ableton Live to make them unrecognizable from their original sources. I'm going to play the music through and then I'll go through some of the tracks individually. So, to begin with, it sounded quite melodic, and that was a recording of my accordion. I don't really know how to play the accordion very well, so I just played in a quick little melody, and made it sound a lot more interesting with some effects. That's like a dynamic distortion, and there's some tape delay and some reverbs, etc. And this one here is just a drone, also from the accordion as well. So after that, it kind of builds up using a couple of interesting sounds here. As you can see, this was a fan heater, just your regular heater. And it's been pitched down. I resampled it, that's why you can't see there. It's been pitched down, couple of effects, and a convolution reverb. It's a kind of strange reverb rather than a regular room for something more interesting. And we have another instance of the fan heater, but it's been put through a granulator too. Sorry. And that's just quite a small low effect you're hearing there. There's also a couple of random whispers, which is just me saying strange stuff into the microphone with some effects thrown on. So that's that. The next sound is actually pretty cool. It was recorded, it's me stomping around in the attic, and the microphone was the floor below pointing up towards the ceiling. So the footsteps kind of sound muffled, and they sounded a bit like a heartbeat to me. So I just cut and edited them together into a rhythm that sounded a bit like a heartbeat. But apart from that, I didn't really change much. The next sound we've got here is a couple of breathy noises. One of them is literally me breathing. And this one is called Melodica. It's like a breath-controlled little keyboard. And I just put my hand over a bunch of keys, not really kind of thinking about being in key with the piece or anything. And I just recorded that in, and it's got a lot of effects on, which I again resampled. Sorry, you can't see them. But this is what it sounds like now. And I automated the panning as well, just to give it a bit more movement. You can also hear a food processor. Doesn't really sound like a food processor anymore though. And after this, there's this kind of violin chugging sound here, which was just me kind of bouncing the bow off a violin, but not off the main part of the strings, just below. I'm not sure what the name for it is, but it creates a really interesting sound. It's almost like a clock ticking. I thought it was a sort of good representation of passing time and building up. So while that's happening, we've got a couple of other things. There's a big hit sort of sound, stinger hit here. And again, that's a violin sample. It sounds very different without the effects. It's literally just a pluck on the violin, but with them. And layered with that is a frame drum that I've got. It's kind of just a metallic-y sort of sound. And also the big sound is from my garage door. So that's with a lot of reverb, obviously. When I turn that off, that's pretty much what it sounded like. After this, there's some pretty cool other effects. There's a frame drum rhythm, which I kind of played in. It's got a slight delay send on it as well. And there's some fingernails. Very quietly playing there. And this little guitar harmonic was just plucking one of the strings near the tuning peg, so not the main body of the guitar, with delays again to create that rhythm. So without, it sounds pretty boring. That's all it is. And I also did some recordings of a cymbal. We've got some drum cymbals here, and I just used the violin bow to get some really cool effects out of it. Can't hear that one too well. There's another one here though. But it just makes really nice resonant sounds when you use a bow on a crash cymbal or whatever. Some other interesting sounds we have here are this second big hit. It's a bit of a drier sound. That's the frame drum, but it's also with a car door, my mum's car, being slammed. Without the effects, it's yeah. And also, yeah, just some more drums. Or not. I'm not sure what that is. And we have some really interesting violin chattery sort of sounds. I just recorded a bunch of takes of me just kind of soaring at it with the bow, and I put delays on each of them and layered them up. So it's a pretty interesting sound. It's sort of, you know, goes in and out, left and right, and I thought it was quite a good way to build towards the end. Again, we're getting the whispers back and some more breathing, and it builds up to a sort of final big hit, which is another bowed cymbal, a bin. It's pretty interesting. That's just slapping a metal bin. That sort of violin screech again, bowing a violin in interesting ways. I can't play it, so it sounds terrible, but it's really useful for this kind of thing here. Just with a bit of reverb sound on there as well. And down here we have another bin hit, which I shortened. I put it into sampler and shortened it, and I added this resonator and a few other effects, and it made it a lot more tonal and more like a sort of bassy instrument. So a lot of that sound is coming from this. I just used the preset really. It's just the resonator from Ableton. But if I turn these effects off, you'll hear the difference. It doesn't really have any of that metallic kind of sound at all. And that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this quick little look behind this track. And as I say, it was all made with sounds recorded in this house, some of them off pretty bad quality microphones. But it's interesting to see what you can create using just sort of things that you wouldn't really expect to be making music with. So thanks for watching, and hopefully see you in the next one.